Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today. Hi, Alison.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for being here. Today we have Alison McBain. She is a multi-genre author as well as an editor and cover artist, correct?
Yes, yeah, I wear a lot of hats.
Fun. Well, where do you want to start? Because you've had several big projects recently. Tell us about author versus AI. That piqued my interest.
Oh, sure, yeah. So, AI is on the top of everyone's mind, right? These days, right? Whether you're a writer, artist, musician, everyone's talking about it. It's something that's sort of creeping into the creative sphere, right? So, one thing that I've done a lot of is I've written a lot. I'm a pretty fast writer. I've done ghostwriting. And when talking to a friend of mine, he was like, "Well, you know what? You're writing so much for other writers. Why don't you do more of that for yourself?" And we had also been talking about how AI was sort of creeping into the creative sphere. So I thought, you know what? It would be fun to sort of challenge AI, not that AI cares, but sort of show that a human author can write almost as fast as a computer, but hopefully much better. So I started my project. I did a lot of preparation for it, and then I decided I was going to, write a book a week, essentially 40,000 words and above, and try to do that for a whole year.
Wow, that's a lot of books. So have you published all of those books too?
No, they're actually all unpublished right now. I didn't actually get to the full year. I only wrote 34 books.
Only
Only.
34 books. I mean, come on,
Exactly.
Allison. I mean,
But yeah, I know. So I did finish around the end of last year, and I've since then, been sort of this. If last year was the year of writing, this year is the year of editing. So I'm working on those, yeah, and getting
oh
those
my
out.
goodness, I can't even imagine. So how did you set up AI to produce a book a month or yeah, a book a week? And how are you going to judge those?
Oh, I didn't. So like this was just showing that a human could actually write almost as fast as an AI
Oh, okay.
program. Yeah. I did go on a radio show last year, and one fun thing that the host did is he actually would produce AI written work and have authors read them sort of cold, right? And so what, I had agreed to do was he took some of my book plots and plug them into AI. And so I got to actually read some of the, stories that AI came up with based on my book plots. And some were good, some were truly awful, but as you would expect, so there was a lot of quality control lacking, I would say.
Well, it's just the first pass. I mean, AI needs editing too, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Fun. Yeah, I've only talked to one, like I interview a lot of authors, and I've only talked to one author who uses AI, and they used AI. So they're a mystery, cozy mystery writer. So very genre, driven. And they're very, I mean, like it's like writing sweet romance. There's always going to be a kiss at the end and no kisses before that. And cozy mystery is kind of this. And she said that she used like just for prompts, like, okay, tell me this city and a cat and start me off with characters. And so that was kind of interesting. She gets maybe like one page from AI that says it could be this. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, for most creative endeavors, artists are creating because we love to do it. And, AI doesn't love to love to write the same way that we do. So I think that especially for all the authors who are worried about it, A lot of authors said that they were inspired by my project because, it shows that, we don't have to worry about AI. Humans can do incredible things still, and will continue to do so down the road.
Definitely. Well, jump in and tell me about your books. Which one do you want to start with?
Okay, yeah.
So jump in and tell me about your books. The New Empire, I'm seeing that cover behind you. Talk about that one.
That was my latest published work, and it's an alternate history. Basically, it takes the premise and that the Chinese Empire came to the Americas before Europeans. So it completely changed the whole world order so that the indigenous populations, with the help of the Chinese Empire, become a world power in their own right. So when the book takes place in the 1700s, the power dynamics are much different than what the history books have.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm getting like Man in the High Castle vibes.
Oh yeah. Similar, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I read the synopsis of that book and I did not get that from the synopsis. So thank you for explaining. So instead of like the British or European colonizing North America, the Chinese colonized North America.
Well, not colonize. Actually, they are trading partners.
Okay.
And the Europeans do still come over, but their advancement is stopped much sooner, stopped at the Appalachian Mountains. So basically, it becomes sort of an epic struggle between the indigenous populations. The Chinese are sort of encroaching a bit, and then from the other side of the continent, the Europeans. So it's a whole different dynamic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. And so did you do a lot of research for that time period, or how did that come about?
Oh, definitely. You can't see it, but over to my left over here, I have a whole bookcase just full of history books, and I read all of them. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like one of my background is in history, so I just love to go down those rabbit holes and find interesting facts and throw them in my books. So I had a lot of fun just melding multiple cultures together to create this world. And hopefully it feels realistic as if it could have actually happened.
And what was the inspiration for this? I mean, why choose that culture, that time period?
Because there actually was some evidence. I was reading a scientific article before I started writing this book. There's some actual archaeological evidence that the Chinese might have come over to South America, and they found some remnants maybe of a trip over. So I was like, well, what if they had come over? What if they had stayed and established these permanent, you know, trading routes, and they were top of the technological world at that point. They were very advanced, so they definitely could have done that.
Yeah, that's interesting to think that our culture and communities and people would be such a different mixture than we are today. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, definitely. It's fun.
It seems like who is the main character in the story?
Well, the main character is Jiangxi, and he is actually a Chinese slave who was sent over. So, in actual history, in real history, every time there was a changeover of power in China, a new emperor, a lot of dissidents would be killed. So, history brutal, right? But in my version of events, instead of killing them, they would send them over to the new empire, and they would be slave labor to help grow their power. So there was a large underclass of Chinese slaves in my story, and he's one of them. He's actually the son of the former emperor who was killed.
Oh, wow. So, um, it follows his life, and is there a struggle to free themselves? I mean, who are they slaves to at that point? To
To the indigenous population. So,
Oh,
yeah, so he is involved. He's very central to an attempt to try to free all of the Chinese slaves. And, and he's also sort of torn because he comes over as a young boy. And so this is, aside from a few isolated memories, this world, is all he's ever known. So it's him trying to find his identity in a way.
right. Yeah, because if he didn't, yeah, if maybe he doesn't remember China very much either, right?
No, he doesn't. And honestly, like if you went back, he would probably not survive long. Although that's, of course, a dream of his.
Right. Oh, interesting. And so does he, I mean, does it show him as an adult? Does he have his own family as well?
He doesn't have a family, but yeah, it starts out when he's a young boy and it follows him through, growing up to into his 20s.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't, that seems like such an undertaking to me, how much research you would need to do, not only like the geography, but the history and the culture and well, and part of it, it's I guess it's a little bit of a fantasy, so you can make a little bit of your own world, but that's amazing undertaking there.
Oh, it was so much fun. But yeah, it really is. I find because I write all genres, some genres to me are just, fun and light and, you can just dash them off. It's great. And some genres like the historical ones, why I love them so much. Yeah, I have to really dive deep into that world and I have to, create the entire world and do tons and tons of research because if there's one thing I've learned, if you get something wrong about a historical period, someone will let you know. One of your readers will let you know, right?
They
So
definitely
you
want to let you know.
exactly. So you really want to be spot on most of the things that you put in there.
Yes, I did an Aztec mythology fantasy type book. And yeah, we spent a long time and so much because I did the project with an illustrator. We spent so long of making everything like so accurate. The food, the houses, their civilization and all of those things. And of course, then I put a shifter in there. So,
So you can get away with it a little bit if there's like fantasy or magic in it, but like you will still get called out on the historical
Oh yeah,
details,
no, yeah,
right?
I totally agree on that. Well,
Yeah.
take me through your other books.
My published work or from author versus AI?
Yes, your published work. So I saw that you have a book, The Rose Queen, I think, which that's a fantasy, right?
It is a fantasy. It's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. It was my first book, and but it's gender swapped. So basically, the Beast is a woman rather than a man. So it does follow some of the traditional elements of the Beauty and the Beast tale, but it does veer off in fun and exciting ways. And there's lots of magic.
Fun. How does she become a beast?
Oh, similar to the fairy tale, she's cursed by a sorcerer that she sort of turns down. She was engaged, betrothed to him by her father. So she turns him down, and he's not too happy with that.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna
he
say, word
curses
to the
her.
wise, right? Hopefully, did she know he
Exactly.
was a sorcerer before she made that decision? But
Yeah. Well, I mean, she was young,
well,
and
and when you're facing something that you don't
yeah.
want to do, like, it may have been just as bad as being turned into a beast if she had accepted his proposal, right?
Oh yeah, maybe worse even. He was not a nice guy.
Okay, so yeah, so there you go. There's your answer. And I saw
Exactly.
that you wrote a romance too, The Impossible Guy.
Yep, that was a fun one. Romance is one of those genres, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but like that's my light and fun time. I love romance, I love the happy ever after. I especially love sweetheart romances, like where it's a lot about the characters and building their relationship. It's so much fun to me. Yeah, that's a really fun genre.
Yeah, when people ask me why I do that, I'm like, well, in my fantasy books, people can die. And
Exactly.
people do die, and there are very dire consequences to everything that's happening. And so when I write a fantasy and then I like let my brain go of the worst thing that can happen is somebody breaks up with you, right?
And usually that turns out to be a good thing
Right,
because then,
because there's a new
they
guy
grow as
around
the
the
kid.
corner, right?
Exactly. There's a better guy around the corner. But I mean, that's the beauty of writing in multiple genres. And I don't know if you feel this way, but I like to switch it up. So I'll write a heavy, serious, like dystopian story, and then I'll be like, you know what? Now I need a romance. So I'll write something light and fluffy and have a happy ever after. And then I can go back to the dark and depressing stuff again.
Yeah, you could be my book twin because that's exactly what I do. Yeah, I write a dystopian or a fantasy, and then I have to write a fun romance. So
Exactly.
I have to
Yeah, but
balance
it's fun
all.
to switch it up, like because there are great stories. It doesn't matter what genre. There are great stories everywhere. And finding the heart of that story, whether it's something dark and dystopian or something light and fun, that's what we're trying to coax out of our stories and show to readers.
Have you found it hard to define yourself as far as because you do write in so many genres? Do you see that as like an impediment or something? Because I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, if they recognize you as one thing, then you're that thing, and people that like that thing are going to come read your books, right? Have you found that to be hard to deal with?
I don't think so. I actually have had some of the opposite reaction. I know, yeah, traditionally, most marketers and most agents will say, no, you have to stick to this. Your fans are here. But I also write a lot of short stuff. I write short stories, poems, and I've actually found readers have followed me. There are certain sites that I write on regularly, have followed me from genre to genre. And I've actually been told, you know what? I never read this genre, but I really love what you did with it. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like you can actually bring a reader with you. If they enjoy your stuff, you can bring them with you to a different genre, a different type of story. And that's great. I love hearing that.
That is great. Yeah, I just got a review that was very similar. They said, I don't usually read fantasy, but I read your other books and I read this one and now I like fantasy. I'm like, yeah,
You brought them over.
yes.
That's awesome.
Fun. So what's next for you?
Well, as I mentioned, I am editing a lot of my books. I was actually just thrilled. One of the books for my Author versus AI project, I just found out that it was longlisted for an award. So yay, fingers crossed, it goes further. So yeah, so I'm sending out these books. Some of these books, well, actually, all of the books for my Author versus AI project, I have my own YouTube channel, and I've read excerpts from them, and I've had people say, when are they coming out? Well, hopefully soon. Some of them will be coming out soon. And I actually also am thinking, since I didn't finish my full year of books, I do have some unwritten books that are fully outlined, ready to go. So I might tackle this again. It was a lot of fun to just sort of sit down and just write and write and write. So, now that I'm sort of recovered from that, because it was a bit of a slog at times, I might start it over. I might start this project over and try 52 books again. We'll see if I can make the full year.
I was gonna say because how like so I don't I do you use a separate editor or do you edit your own work?
I edit my own work, and I also, obviously for publishers, they have editors on staff that, will edit your work. But as an editor myself, I do tend to self-edit a lot of my work. I do have a number of wonderful writers groups. I don't lie, other people do read my work and help me out. So I have some wonderful writers groups who are very helpful in pointing out, oh, wait, there's a plot hole here you can drive a truck through. Oh, yeah, there is. So I'm very thankful for all my beta readers and writers groups who help me out.
Yeah, because I was gonna say even if I wrote a book in a week, it would still take me like 6 weeks to get through the whole editing process with my editor. So it would be like 6 weeks per book to get that's just edited. And then it's like formatting and a cover. And so it'd take me like at least 2 months, if not 3 months, to publish or to get it even ready to like send somewhere to publish. So yeah, if you write 52 books, that could be like publishing 4 books a year. You'd be set for like 40 years.
Something like that, yeah.
I didn't do that math
Yeah.
right at all, I'm sure, but anyway.
I was gonna say I find the same thing. Yeah, the writing is the fast part, you know, the editing, formatting, getting the books out, marketing, all of that takes so much more time. So it would be great if you could just write the books, send it off into ether, and someone else would do all of that stuff, right? You know, and to a certain extent, traditional publishers do help out with that. But yeah, if you're self-publishing, I've self-published a couple of books. Yeah, definitely you're doing that all yourself, right? With your wonderful team to help out.
Yes, and yeah, especially if you're writing them that fast and there are plot holes or you have to go back and fix kind of a major part of the story. Um, and did you have, so in that week, did you have the idea, like, did you have the idea and write the whole book, or did you have some of the ideas before you started the week?
Well, I had all the ideas before I started.
Okay.
So
Okay.
part of the preparation for this project was about, I'd say 4 to 6 months beforehand. I started, first of all, just coming up with the ideas. And then I'm a preparer. So like I plan everything. So I wrote chapter by chapter outlines. I did character sketches. I even sometimes would pull, I don't know if you do this, I pull photos from the internet and I have them sort of in my folder. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, my character, she's a redhead with green eyes. That's her. You know, so I'll have that in my folder to look at. So when the week started, I would just sit down, I'd have all my stuff prepared, and just be able to just write.
And do you usually, I mean, do your books follow that chapter outline? So I don't, I mean, I know what's going to happen like in the beginning and in a few plot points, like the major, the major scene, I know what's going to happen in that. But I usually, like when I'm writing, I fill in everything just on the fly, how it comes to me. So do you stick to your outlines pretty well when you're writing?
Pretty well. I mean, sometimes the characters do run away sometimes. So sometimes you're like, okay, you need to be in this room. Why are you over there? Like, so it does happen. But I'm usually pretty good at then steering, it back into sort of the way I want it to go.
Right.
Yeah, I used to be a pantser. I used to write by the seat of my pants and just have, you know, sit down and no idea what's going to happen today and just start writing the story. But I found I spent too much time, like, writing myself into a corner or not knowing exactly where I was going and having some pages, of nothing much happening and having to cut those later. So, like, I find it helps me with the editing later, especially if I have sort of everything plotted out, planned out, so that I don't have to go back and be like, okay, this whole section sucks. I need
Yeah.
to throw this away.
That's true. Yeah. The last book I edited, or I guess the one before the second to the last book I edited, my editor came back. She was like, the first 10 chapters is boring. And I was like, there's only 20 chapters in the book. This is like
Oh
half the
no.
book. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, let me fix that, please.
Yeah, when I was pantsing my stuff, a lot of times, yeah, I would take sort of a running leap into the story, and so I'd be meandering and meandering. So often I would have to cut like the first 1 to 4 chapters before my story actually started. So
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely helped, planning that out and getting that redundancy out of the way before I actually started writing really helps. And then you're not, going back and saying, oh man, I gotta kill my darlings.
So is this a lifelong career for you? Did you study writing and creative writing in school? You said you're a history person.
I am a history person,
Okay.
yeah. So I studied history and actually classical literature in a university, which actually is a great basis for being a writer because I read a lot. I read a lot of history, and stories are really built on people. So like the more people you study, the more biographies, the more characters you can throw into your own work, right?
Right.
So yeah, reading is a number one essential for me in order to write. Like I read constantly, to find out, what story am I going to write next? Well, this interesting scientific article just, you know, caught my eye. Maybe I'll write about that.
Neat. Fun. Well, tell everyone where we can find you in your books.
My author website is AlisonMcBain.com. That's Alison with one L. And my author versus AI website, in case anyone wants to learn more about my project, is authorversusai.com.
Oh, okay. So you have a separate website for that. Cool. I didn't find that one, so I'll have to go back and look at that one. And are your books wide, or where can we find your books as well?
Oh, anywhere. Yeah, anywhere you can order them off Amazon. You can, depending on the bookstore, walk in a bookstore and pick them up, go to your library. Yeah, they might be there. You never know.
Well, yes, you can ask them to order them and then they can order them.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Alison, for being on the show, and we'll have you back with your next book.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.